Hello, everyone. This is Alice Linahan, the Vice President of Women on the Wall and the founder of Voices in Power. And I'm so excited to be with you today and have my special guest, Jason Hoyt. And Jason, there you go. Hello, Jason. How are
Hello,
you?
hello. I'm doing great, Alice. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for coming on today. And
Yes.
I just want to introduce you to the world. A lot of people know you, but maybe some people don't and they need to know about you.
Yeah.
Jason has been in the grassroots over 20 years. He's been a political organizer. He's
Mm-hmm.
organized in the political world. He works with individuals and organizations, churches, and candidates to let them know or to work with them
Hmm.
and people who believe in freedom,
Yeah.
true freedom. And Jason shows them how they can organize, grow their volunteers, and really make a difference on the ground. And through trial and error and through hard work, I've known Jason a long time and seen his work and can validate that he truly can help organizations, individuals, churches, which we really need help in our churches out there right now, to organize for freedom and liberty. And Jason's been working on some projects, and I want to talk to him about them because I think right now, leading up to this election and beyond, no matter what happens in this election, we are going to need to be prepared.
Hmm.
And we need to be prepared in all aspects in our communities, in our churches, in our schools, and having the tools to organize and create networks and work with different people who are at different places in the journey. Some
Yes.
people just need to be awakened to what's happening. Some people are awake and they're like, what do I do? And Jason's got the answers. So, Jason, let's talk about
Mhm.
these Save America workshops and training camps. Tell me, why did you get into this?
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is a long story here, but I got to tell you, you hear this stat and the numbers change, but Congress has like a 14% approval rating, right? But 95% of them get reelected. Why?
Why?
There's something way out of balance there, right? Have you seen the HBO documentary The Swamp? Do you remember
Yes.
seeing that a number of years
Oh,
ago?
yes.
I remember seeing
Yes.
that a number of years ago, and as I'm putting this training camp together, I did like a pilot test program with a couple organizations this spring, and I remembered that movie, and I went back and watched it, and they focus in on they follow like Matt Gaetz and Thomas Massey and a few others, and they talk about special interests. They talk about the power of fundraising, like these committee assignments. They get put on these committees not because they have a special talent or a layer of expertise from their past that can hone in on that specific committee's topic. That's not why. It's not merit based. Well, actually, it kind of is merit based, but based on their ability to fundraise.
Exactly.
It's just, and
Exactly.
they went into the numbers. You're on an A level, B level, or C level committee, and if you're on the B or the A level, you're expected to raise millions of dollars for the party. That's why they're placed on these committees.
Yes.
And how do you do that? Here's what happens, right? You get this grassroots candidate, and all the grassroots are out there working for him, working hard. They help him get elected, and it's a really hard fought race. It's pretty tight. They get to
Uh-huh.
DC, and the party says, "Hey, what great job. Congratulations. I'm glad you're here with the party now. And we're glad you won. You're going to have to win again in 2 years, but we're going to make it a lot easier for you. I know you've got that pet project, that thing that you really want to work on, but we're going to help you with some fundraisers so you don't have to work so hard at the grassroots. And when they say fundraisers, they're not talking about little $5 and $10 donations from the neighbors down the street. They're
Right.
talking about some big fundraisers, $100,000 checks here and there, and it's with a special interest. And so what I found is like we the people, we've kind of abdicated some of this responsibility. And
Right.
there's so much more that we can do. And I want them, whether it's issue advocacy season, whether you're advocating for and against policies, or if it's election season, I want them to realize that their path to victory is through us,
Right.
not through
Right.
special interests. And the only way we can do that is with numbers, is with more people.
Right.
And and you talked about people in their journey. And what I
Mhm.
talk about in the training camp is I say, there's we have to spark awakenings in others, and there's two moments in time when someone wakes up. There's when they're asleep and they wake up to reality,
Right.
and then once they're awake, they wake up again. They wake up to action where they realize I have to do something about. I have to get engaged in the game. And so, what I'm really trying to do is the people that are engaged, like you and I, and a
Mhm.
lot of people that I know that you work with, it's our job to spark that awakening in other people.
Mhm.
And so I'm really digging into with the grassroots side, what works, what doesn't work, what kind of approaches, the psychology of it, and really taking responsibility and ownership for it and taking it seriously and really trying to grow our ranks so we have more people protecting,
Mhm.
defending, supporting, and voting for freedom.
And don't you think? I just think one of the important things about these training camps
Mhm,
and workshops is to understand, coming from your background, knowing how to play the political game.
mhm.
Language matters. How we approach our elected officials, elected servants,
Yes,
the um, that, a lot of times we put these people up on a pedestal that they're so much smarter or
right.
better than anyone, and they're really not. They're just everyday people
Right.
who've been put into a position and thrown into a position that, like you said, has a lot of power, and there's money behind things that happen. And so one of the things that I've learned from you, that I think you do so well in these training camps, is to learn political strategy of how to approach people
Mhm.
um, at different parts of the journey,
Yeah,
you know. And so even everyday people on the street, our friends, our neighbors,
right,
our family, but then also political people.
right.
And so talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, you just listed a number of people, and I separate
Mhm.
it first into people you know, people you don't know, and how you
Mhm.
approach them obviously is different. It's
Right.
it's a lot easier to approach people you know, and I talk about this is the weird part about the fundraising because they're so focused on fundraising. We got to raise money. We got to raise. Why do you have to raise money? What is the most expensive form of marketing? Which coincidentally is also the least effective form of marketing. It's commercials.
Commercials.
They
Right.
have to raise so much money for the least effective.
Right.
On the other side, on the flip side, what is the most effective form of marketing, which is coincidentally also the least expensive? It's word of mouth
Word of mouth.
referral conversations.
Hmm.
So if
That's
we would
right.
just spend more time ourselves understanding the candidate, understanding the issue,
Hmm.
and being able to have a conversation about it with somebody, customize it to them and where they are.
Right.
And it's like last fall, I did a video for the training camp, and I said, "Okay, here we are. We're getting ready to go into holiday season. We're gonna have Thanksgiving. We have Christmas. You're gonna have Christmas parties, holiday parties at work, and all this." So I said, because we're taking this serious now. We're all pros. Get a piece of paper out. Write down 20 names, 20 people that you're gonna see over Thanksgiving, Christmas parties, and all that over the holidays. And
Uh,
then write down in a column, kind of think ahead, plan ahead, strategy. It's like Michael Jordan, the GOAT, the greatest of all time. He's not the greatest of all time because of only what he did on game day in the final seconds in the finals. That's
mhm.
not why he was the GOAT. He was the GOAT because of the thousands and thousands of hours
Right.
preparing, in the gym and the practice and all that stuff. It's like we're not successful because of what we do on election day. We're going to be a success because of all the stuff we do leading up to it. So I said, make a list of where are they on a scale of 1 to 10. How much do they believe in freedom? How much do they understand it? And
Mhm.
you're looking at your list of 20. You're like, well, these three are commies, or you know,
Right.
these
Yeah.
five, they're wearing MAGA hats to the Christmas party. You know what I mean? But then
Right.
these other what do I have left? These other 10 or so, they're kind of in the middle or so.
Mhm.
And so how you approach them is going to be a little bit different with each one. And Jesus said to be fishers of men. I say for
Right.
this, let's be fishers of patriots. Let's cast a net out into the community. People we know, people we don't know. Let's find out where are they in the scale of 1 to freedom, and the
Right.
ones who believe in freedom, hey, let's welcome them in. Let's get them engaged and let's get them in the process and let's get them to be part of that we the people's voice, speaking up and speaking out and holding them accountable and making sure our numbers are there so they know that their path to victory is through us. So
Right.
there's different ways to have those conversations. And for people you don't know, when you're running errands, wear the freedom shirt with the flag or something. Or I was talking to
Mhm.
a friend of mine. He says, "Oh yeah, every time I go out, I always wear my Air Force veterans hat. I always get a comment."
Yeah.
You're at the
Yeah.
grocery store. You're at the checkout line. Boy, this orange juice. What was the price of this a year ago? And the three people around you, the one guy rolls his eyes, and the lady over here says, "Yeah, Bidenomics." You're like, I want to talk to her.
Yes.
We're
That's
not trying
right.
to convert the heathen. I'm not trying to debate a Democrat or whatever. That's not what
Right.
we need to do. It's find the ones who already believe in freedom and bring them in, get their contact, invite them to something fun. There's different ways to do that in communicating with people and reaching out.
And one of the things when I'm listening to you talk, what I think is so important too is by doing that work during the election season, and we work so hard to get these people elected, and then we get them elected,
Mhm.
and then that big money really, whoever gets in office, that big money just starts pouring in.
Right.
And I think from my experience and seeing the work that you do, it prepares the volunteers
Mhm.
and it builds a network so that once that person is elected, you've got an army of people that are going to work together to hold that elected official accountable.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, freedom and liberty, they work for us.
Right. When you say words matter, it's like I hear people still to this day, they always, our leaders in Washington. It's like, they're not our leaders.
No,
They're our
no,
representatives. They're public servants. They work for us. It's just, there's so many things that we have to do to sharpen our perspective and right side that hierarchy.
right.
And if somebody is, watching this who's not part of an organization, I'm not saying you have to have a formal 501(c)(4 and a website and just you don't have to be part of something formal. It could be
Mhm.
get three of your friends, go have coffee every Saturday morning somewhere and grow and start talking. Hey, you meet that guy who's like Bidenomics, like, yeah, there's a group of us. We always go have coffee every Saturday. You should come join us. We're solving the world's problems. It's a lot of fun. And and then you just
It is.
grow. All of a sudden you're 10, you're 20 people and you're going to a
Mhm.
candidate forum and you guys all walk up together and go talk to one of those candidates and ask a question. And
Right.
then you're volunteering and then you're growing and then they know your name. I always ask this question when I speak to audiences. How many have a congressman that knows your name? You know,
That's right.
and
That's right.
then when they get in office, then you set up a monthly meeting You just go to their office, to their
Right.
local one, just to be seen all the time.
That's
And you're
right.
just a constant drumbeat. You don't have to, you could be 20 people, you could be 5 people, you could be 50 people, whatever it is.
And I've seen it work time and time again
Mhm.
where people, ordinary, everyday people,
Right.
can make a huge difference. And one of the things, too, I think, is local at the local level.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah.
it's not just, who we elect as president or our
Right.
state, elected officials. It's that mayor, it's that city council, it's the
Mhm.
school boards. If you can um, get actively involved and use the tools that you learn in these workshops, you can be effective in really making a difference at the local level. And am I
Yeah.
right about that?
1,000%, especially the local, it's that much more
Mhm.
impactful. You walk
Right.
into the local coffee shop, and your county commissioner's in line, and they see you. I want them to have a reaction. I
Right.
want them to either be glad you're there or
Hmm.
going like this, like, "Oh, no. Oh, no." I want them to have that reaction, that's key, and then everybody else in line is like, "Who is that
Who's
that just
that?
made them?" You know what I
Right.
mean? That's
Yeah.
so important,
It
and it's
really is.
possible.
It is possible.
Mhm,
Well, give me a breakdown on what you're working on right now,
mhm.
and what that would look like for someone who they signed up today.
Sure, sure. With the Save America training camp, it's a 7-week program,
Mhm,
and each week there's a theme,
mhm,
and there's really it's really about sharpening your perspective on things, and it's about then I'm challenging people to think differently about that hierarchy, about the language, and then about some different tools and things to start noticing. For example, in one of the days, this just popped into my mind. One of the days I talk about we need to start shifting our conversations to solutions.
mhm,
And what I'm challenging people to do in that day is to begin analyzing the content you consume, whether it's articles you read or videos you watch or on social media, whatever it is. What
mhm.
percent of that content is about the problem and what percent of it is about the solution? And
Right,
start thinking about that. And once you become aware of it, it's like all I'm consuming is content that's complaining.
right,
And it's like, then you start
right.
to become hungry for solutions. And what I want people to do is to start being solution oriented and researching. It's like, we need to fix a tax code. Well, there's a lot of different options out there. And I'm not saying you have to just champion the one, but if you become well versed in the options and the different proposals that are out there, and you start bringing those up into conversations.
Hmm.
And then what happens is you become the solution guy.
Right.
In your circle of influence, people start to look at you as a go-to person for solutions. Now
That's right.
your political capital is gaining. We talk about this in just one of the days. So there's 7 weeks, and each day actually I have an article with I'm putting a video, kind of an intro video on each one. So
Uh-huh.
each day there's topics to think about, some things to look at and study. Not study like homework, but I mean to really begin to incorporate.
Right.
And so it's a 7-week program, and I just want people to, because I know there's a lot of people out there who are looking at the crazy, watching Rome burn, and I meet so many people that are like, "Man, I just wish the election would get here." And it's like, I don't want the election to get here yet. We've got a lot of work to do.
Right. Right.
We've got a lot of work to do. And so not that I want to overwhelm people with a lot of work. What I'm saying is
Right.
there's some things we need to really incorporate to get more people on board.
Right.
So that's what
And
the training camp is. It's just a daily, if you will. And you and I spoke a short time ago. You gave me a great idea modeling it after the Bible studies that you've done in the past, where
mhm.
so I think that these home liberty groups, I'm going to call them,
Uh-huh.
if you have a group of 3 to 5 to 10 or whatever it is, or even a church, you mentioned a church earlier, I
Mm-hmm.
highly recommend churches do this, where they have this program, and there's a group that meets every week, and you all go through the material on your own, but when you get together, talk about it, and you
Right.
flush out what works. Hey,
Right.
the other day I tried that when I was at the grocery store, and I asked about what was the price. Here's the reactions I got, and then here's the follow-up conversations. I haven't tried that yet. And so people step outside their comfort zone, and so they kind of grow this thing together and talk about it. And I think doing those group home studies is perfect. So thank you for that suggestion.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I think, like I said, you and I have been around this a long
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And, there's been successes, there's been
Mhm.
failures, which that's as important as the successes
Oh, yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah.
is to really learn. And that's where you helped me so much in the language
Mm.
and really fine tuning the language that I use, and how everyday people, different people, are in different places on the journey, and they're not going to understand what I'm talking about sometimes
Right.
because I've been in it for so long. So
Right.
it's really, I think, important. And that community aspect, I think, also, um, doing that idea of, doing it on your own, but having a meeting about specifically about this,
Yes.
to really hone in, you can make a huge difference at the
Yeah.
local level. It's
Absolutely. And I put in the training camp, after a few days in, because there's going to be people that are interested in doing this and they're doing it on their own. And so what I'm encouraging them to do is, okay, think about this now. Now that you've been gone through a few days on your own, who could you bring into this? And
mm,
maybe you facilitate one of these small home groups yourself with 5 people or whatever the number is. It doesn't have to be huge.
right, right.
Yep. And doing all that together is super important.
It is. Well, what I know, we kind of talked about what the program looks
Mhm.
like. What do they have to do? How do
Sure.
they find
Yeah,
out?
it's saveamericatrainingcamp.com. It's saveamericatrainingcamp.com. I mentioned that it's 7 weeks. The first week is an introduction. I'm kind of laying the foundation, the framework for some things to think about. For example, one of the days, day 4, is just a quick conversation about our target market. What I
Mhm,
mean by that is, just like the days of the founding, we read these stories of the days of the founding. A third of the colonists, they still wanted to be royal subject to the king. They wanted the central
mhm.
power. They were fine with that. And it was only a third of the colonists that really wanted freedom, liberty, independence, self governance. So that left this other third in the middle, and they were neutral. They're undecided. They just kind of were doing their thing. And I think that's the way it is today. It might even be 40% of the people that are still, I know we're very divided, but there's still people in the middle that really, well,
You're
here's the problem. The left are spending hundreds of millions of dollars trying to woo them with shiny objects.
right.
You know,
That's correct.
we're going to pay
Well,
off your student loans. It's free this, free that. And so, again, the hundreds of millions, they're using advertising and whatever to woo them. So
right.
we've got to get in there with personal conversations, and those people are all around. The nephew you have that just graduated college, has his first
Mhm.
job. He needs to hear about this. He needs to hear about liberty and freedom, what it really means, and the consequences of not supporting it. So that day is about our target market. It's just a quick conversation about that, because we need to get in there and talk to the middle, if you will.
I wholeheartedly agree. And how long are the videos? It's not a huge time.
No, no,
It's
no.
not hours, and it's
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, no, no. Each day, like, the first one is like 20 minutes or something like that. Some of them might be a
Mhm.
minute. Like I just explained to you our target market. That's probably going to be 5 minutes. I mean, it's going to
Yeah,
be, quick
yeah,
and short. The second week I call sharpen. That's where we have to begin to sharpen our skills, our knowledge, our understanding, and begin to study. Um, and you'll appreciate this one. I know, study the tactics and strategies of left and right establishment politicians. To
Yes.
study their tactics. How do they, one of them, we always hear about projection. Another one that I say is where they negotiate from the absurd, from the exaggeration, and
Right.
like, oh, there's a mandate. The mandate is we have to have all electric vehicles by 2030. So what do they say on the news that night? Oh, that's ridiculous. That's crazy. So what are the talking points? We'll never get it done. 2030 is too soon. Our power grid, the infrastructure, we won't be able to handle it, blah, blah, blah. So then they come back and they're going to say someday, they're going to say, okay, by 2040 then. What are we supposed to be? Relieved?
Right. They still have
That's
their foot in the door.
that's exactly right. And what
That's right.
most people, like, you'll see Fox News that night, it's going to be all the experts, our power grid, this, and we're not going to be able to blah, blah, blah. And nobody's asking the question, from where in the Constitution do you get the authority to do that? We have a free market system.
Right.
So studying their tactics. It,
And it just helps you not be prone to propaganda.
yes.
It's huge today
Yep.
with the media, and like you said, it's both sides of the aisle
Mhm.
that can deceive. It's
Yes.
deceptive semantics, and your
Yep.
training camp helps people to understand and weed through
Yes.
the deceptive semantics. And it's believe me,
Oh, yeah.
they are organizing. They know how to deceive,
Yeah.
and it's and so many of us for so long have just been, working hard, trying to keep our head above water, taking care of our families, and we turn on the news and we
Yeah.
just believe what we hear,
Mhm.
or we scroll through Instagram or Facebook, and we're in such a different place
Yep.
today than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And so understanding the progression of how we got here, now we're here. What do we do when we wake up?
Right. Absolutely.
Because we can't be complacent
Yeah.
anymore. It's really, it's
And
just, we can't.
in also in those strategies and tactics, watching what they do, it's how they vilify people. And it's like,
Mhm.
don't just believe. You have to do the research. You have to get to the bottom of it. When they, it's your entire school choice thing. It's that whole all the strategies and tactics behind what you're against the children. You don't want them to have a good education. You want them to be stuck in failing school. It's like,
Yeah.
getting past the noise, getting past the
Right,
propaganda, looking at who is going to profit from all of this stuff, and
right.
to recognize their games is key. So,
And one of the things that I love about your books that you've written, and I want to talk about that in a second too,
mhm,
but you come at it truly from a um, constitutional, liberty minded. It's funny because last night I was with Bishop Strickland, and we were talking about the term subsidiary,
mhm,
and you have written about it. And I learned that, or I heard him say that, this was a month or so ago, and that word just, it stuck into me, because when you look at government funded whatever,
mhm,
if it's universal health care or universal school choice, the goal is to eliminate subsidiarity and
mm,
liberty of the freedom of the
yeah,
individual. And it just, I love that about you, because you truly come at it from a liberty minded
yeah,
mindset and constitution. And talk about your books, and
sure.
and your, you know um, you truly know the Constitution. A lot of elected people that we put in office don't.
Yeah, I always say, wouldn't it be great if we could just write this document that tells them exactly what they can and can't do? and that we can get them to swear an oath to protect and defend it. You know, it's their instruction manual. It's not our instruction manual. It doesn't tell us what we can and when you go run your errands or you work at your job, do you go refer to the Constitution to find out what you can and can't do? No, you don't, because you don't even swear an oath to protect and defend it unless you enter the military or you enter office or you work in the government. It's their instruction manual. And you know, when you mentioned the church in the opening, I wrote an article recently, and it's "The Church Must Save America." And this became so blaringly obvious to me in the last several months that I've been, you know, with the writing, with the training camp and all that, I'm focused on our natural God-given rights.
Mm-hmm.
And so I posed the question in this. I said, can we survive as a nation with God-given rights if the church does not stand up to protect them? And so I said, as the erosion, I won't read the whole thing, but just the beginning part, as the erosion of God-given rights becomes more evident, one must ask, do you think it'll be the secularists who rise to protect these fundamental rights, these fundamental liberties? The historical and moral imperative suggests otherwise. It's not the secularists, but the church called upon to lead its defense. So is the church waiting for someone else to speak up and reclaim? It's just with the sharpening week 2, we're sharpening our skills and our understanding of things. And I have a deep dive on with the last book that I wrote. I believe in freedom, don't you? How to talk to family and friends about liberty. I have a section in there called 30 Foundational American Principles, and that I'm including in the training camp. And like I forget the number of, but one of them is they're not our leaders; they are our public servants. That
Mm-hmm.
mindset, putting yourself subservient to them.
Right.
And also, speaking of language and perspective, I don't have constitutional rights. I have constitutional protections.
Right.
The
Correct.
Constitution was not written to grant me my rights. It was written to protect them.
That's
I,
huge.
I don't have a First Amendment right to free speech. I have a natural God-given right to speak my mind.
Exactly.
The First Amendment was written because it says Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. It's
Mm-hmm.
telling Congress you cannot infringe upon, abridge my freedom of speech. So having the right perspective here is
Mm-hmm.
fundamental, foundational. We have to get back to that.
Another term that I
Mhm.
know you and I, it drives both you and I crazy, but I want to put it out there because people
Yeah,
need to, whether you do the training camp or not, quit doing this.
right,
But we're not a democracy.
right.
We are a constitutional republic.
Yeah. Yeah, people interchange the word democracy with democratic process. We do incorporate a democratic process where people go in and vote. But a
Right.
democracy, strictly speaking, is where the people vote and the people decide everything. Now, people will say, well, we have a representative democracy. Okay, fine. But the key thing that they always miss is that you cannot have natural God given rights and a democracy.
Correct.
Those don't go together because, you know, we say, well, majority rules, 50% plus one, whatever they say. No, my rights don't come from 50% of the people. My
Right.
rights come from God.
Correct.
I don't
That,
care what 50% of the people think. I have a natural God-given right to speak my mind. The Declaration of Independence recognize that we are endowed by our Creator with unalienable. Unalienable means they are mine. They cannot be given or taken away. They're mine. So
that's
if 50% of the people decide that you're not allowed to post bad things online about so and so or whatever, like they have in UK, I just saw a video today. Someone
yeah.
getting arrested, and they were being arrested, but the police actually said, "Well, you posted some things online that offended some people, and they reported it." If
That's
that
mob
happened,
rule. That's
yes,
mob rule.
exactly. We are not a democracy. I don't get my rights from the mob. I don't get
Right.
my rights from voters. My rights come
Hmm.
from God.
That's right. We are going to win this thing.
I hope.
Well, actually, God's going to. That's why I have hope because
Yeah.
I think God is using you and myself
Yep.
and
Yes.
other patriots. um, to to fight for freedom and liberty.
Hmm.
And in the end, he wins.
Yes,
So
I
that's
read.
the
Yeah,
blessing. That's
I,
why I have hope.
I
But
read ahead. I read ahead.
yeah.
I know how it ends.
But we're called. We all have a calling, and you've truly stepped up to the plate,
Hmm.
and done a lot of work on this, and it's good stuff. And
Yeah,
I just encourage people to take the time, take the training camp,
yep,
share it with your friends, organize in your community, and together we can make a difference. We
yeah.
can. So
So that's week 2. In week 3,
go ahead.
no, no, I was gonna say in week 3 is where I focus on awaken and recruiting. I talk about those 2 different
Right.
types of awakenings and our responsibility and really how to be fishers of patriots and all that. One of the key points that I make in week 3 that I talk about is we have to focus on and come up with strategies to loosen the grip the media has on our family and friends and neighbors and
Yes.
coworkers. Because I know you can do this, and I know many people can. I can certainly do this as well. I can spot an MSNBC talking point from a mile away.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can tell if somebody's a different type of talking point and a different tone if they are a constant CNN watcher. I can tell the difference between them and a Fox News watcher or Newsmax or some of the. But what happens to a lot of people is they have their one source of news, and boy, that's the right one to watch. Not all these other crazies I focus on here, and we have got to come up. We have to focus on this. We have to loosen that
Right.
grip. People are a product of the media they watch, and it's obvious.
It is obvious. It
Yep.
is obvious. And I know this was years ago. Rebecca and I did our radio show at WBTM, stands for We Become the Media.
Ooh, nice.
Yes. It was so we would go in studio, and this was several years ago, but
Mhm.
when we were working with Mel Moss and we were trying to figure out what are we going to call this radio station, his station, and
Yeah,
we said WBTM,
that's awesome.
and that's the tools that you have. I'm just so excited
Yeah,
for you to have the opportunity to share them and work together. It's going to be fun.
that's awesome. So in week 4,
Uh-huh.
so I'm gonna go through these really fast.
Good,
So
good.
week 4, I transitioned to because I look at to save America is a big concept, obviously, and
Right,
not everything can be handled and be solved, quote unquote, at the ballot box. There's
right.
a lot of things that we, the people, have to do outside of politics to save America, and so I spend a week kind of talking about those. I challenge people to come up with a liberty restoration life plan
Mm.
to restore like other areas of your life that you have created dependence because
Mm.
we are Americans, freedom, liberty, independence, right? So there's just having a discussion about that. Week 5, probably the most important, is about prayer,
Yeah.
modeling after Benjamin Franklin's prayer at the Constitutional Convention. Second Chronicles 7:14. I talk about praying for discernment, for wisdom, for courage, the full armor of God. And also a concept. One of the days I just want to plant the seed. It's like, God bless America. That's nice. But what if we focused differently and said, let's make America a blessing to God?
Oh, yes. Yes.
What would that look like? What do we
Right.
have to do as individuals to be a blessing to God and for the country to be a blessing to God?
That's great.
Yeah. Week 6 is about action then. It's about taking all this
Mhm.
stuff and what is effective, what is not effective, not just being emotional, but what is actually moving the ball forward.
Right.
And one of the days I do put in there, and I'm gonna have a talk with you about this, and maybe we'll insert this an interview about this, but your communication teams,
Yeah. Right.
absolutely. Week 7 then is implementation and expansion. How do we actually grow? How do we actually go create coalitions with other organizations and find a common enemy and a common cause? And uh, I call it the unite the right grassroots mobilization. And then becoming the trusted authority in your circle.
Right.
So those are week 7. So
That's great.
it's awesome.
You're doing so good. I'm
I'm
so
tr-
proud of you.
I'm trying. I'm telling you, I know no other way. I can't.
Well, that's what I always tell people. You know, when you start on this journey
Yeah.
and you go, like with Women on the Wall, and we have the Can I See campaign, when you take that journey from Can I See to I Can See,
Right.
I can see what's happening.
Yes.
And once you can see it, you can't unsee it,
Nope.
and you can't be quiet. You
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
just go back to sitting,
Yeah.
you know, being a mom or being a dad and, going to work and just thinking everything's going to be okay.
Right.
Once you see it, and you see that your children's future um, is at stake.
Yeah.
Once you come at it from that perspective as a mom or dad or grandparent or even an aunt and uncle,
Hmm.
when you see that that's going to affect the children in your family and the
Yep.
next generation, you can't be quiet.
I always say once you awaken, it's hard to go back to sheep
I love that.
because you can't.
You can't.
I
You.
want people to enter the training camp frustrated like we all are, watching Rome
Mhm.
burn. The based on my marketing, again, I'm not trying to convert the heathen. No
Right.
commie is going to see my red, white, and blue and be like, I'm going to do. So I'm targeting the right. We have to
Uh-huh.
sharpen. So there are people out there who are frustrated, don't know what they can do, don't know what the first step is. When
Hmm.
they get out of the training camp, I want them to feel confident. I want them to be a person that, again, when they go into the coffee shop, their school board member says, "Oh boy, oh good, they're here," or "Uh-oh."
Right.
When you walk into an event, I want your congressman's staffer to whisper in his ear and then for them to make their way across the room to come get their picture with you,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Uh,
Yep. And
well,
then and only then will they understand their path to victory is through us, not through the special interests. So when they get to DC, for example, and they promise all these things, they're going to be like, no, I'm not gonna give you that carve out in the tax code. I'm not gonna play favorites in business regulations to create
right,
barriers to entries for the little guy. I'm actually going to listen to my constituents and follow the Constitution.
right. They know that you're there.
Yes.
They know that.
And you've got their back. And if I just stay in
Right,
line, if I just do what I said I'm going to do, then they will be the grassroots army that I can lean on because everybody else is going to use the big money and the big
right,
funding. I am
right,
not going, they're not even, the lobbyists aren't even going to come to my office. I know that.
right.
I've got to rely on these guys because they are the army that got me here. They're the army that's going to get me reelected if I do a good job.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's what we have to do.
Yep.
It's imperative that we do it, and like I said, God's called certain people to get this started,
Yeah.
and so Jason's answered the call, and
I'm
so
trying.
I'm
Trying my best.
well, you're doing great, and I'm excited to
Yeah.
watch it grow,
Yep.
and the power of compounding activists.
Yeah, and referral marketing.
Referral marketing. That's
Yep,
exactly right.
yep.
We can make a difference.
Awesome. God bless you, Alice. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks for coming on.